Part one of our study of consumer identity focused on, remember, gender, age, ethnicity, religion, GBLT identity, and ended up with geometric lifestyles. Part two will focus on social class and end with psychometric lifestyles. Social class is a particularly interesting area of consumer identity, affecting consumer psychology in a number of ways. The American social class system is divided differently by different groups and for different purposes, and in different textbooks and in different lectures. They also vary by date, such as pre-economy crash and post-economy crash. The one in your book, for instance, is based on pre-economy crash data. Instead, for purposes of this class, we are going to focus on and study the current post-economy crash data as collected in the most recent U.S. Census and posted on this slide. Thus, these are the more current percentages I want you to be familiar with, rather than the less current ones in your textbook. You may want to pause the video here to get these percentages down. Note that ability and motivation are normally distributed, so that's a bell-shaped curve like you see here in what we would predict in the social class system, if in fact it was based on ability and motivation. Thus, if we were born with the same opportunities, going by percentage alone, we would expect a normal distribution of class system, a bell-shaped curved one. That would look like this. Now let's look at what we have in reality instead. So keep this in your head so you can compare. And here we go. Notice not only the skewing to the left, in other words, there is a significantly larger portion of the population in the lower classes below this middle line, and relatively quite few in the upper classes. But also, according to standard psychometrics, the middle line should be in the middle of what we call the middle class, as it clearly is here, and there should be the same number of classes on both sides of the middle line, which is clearly not true. So we've got one missing here, right? That we've called on this slide the lower upper. Seems to make sense to call it that. So we also have a missing class here, which hypothetical class we are calling the lower upper. And there is a range of wealth incomes that is virtually non-existent in the United States, which is from $250,000 to $999,000. So most people in this group, their income is somewhere up to $250,000. And people in this group do not start until millionaires and billionaires. We have a big gap here where you would think this class would be. So given what we know about the normal distribution of ability and motivation, should they determine social class, we would see on each side of the red line an equal percentage of people and the same number of social classes. So clearly something else besides ability and motivation is really at play more significantly. We're going to look at generalities distinguishing each social class, but it's important to remember first that these are generalities, and there are, of course, exceptions. For example, Warren Buffett, one of the richest individuals in America, could pass on appearance alone for lower to middle class. And recent studies of the millionaire next door indicate that some nouveau riche are satisfied to continue to live a middle class existence. However, this is not the norm. So we're going to explore some strong tendencies among the different social classes in consumer psychology.